It's just the shell of the tower. It's all broken down. It's a tree growing inside of it. But there's also a hole in the floor, a squared hole with a staircase going down. All right, let's go down. Lantern lit, they head in. The stairs go down quite a ways and come to a long passage which brings them to a room. This room has two passages, one out of each side, but in front of them is a mural. A mural depicting a great battle in which humans are fighting some hideous, deformed creature, painted in shapes that are aggressive and spiky and evil looking. Think of Marvel Comics Daredevil from the late 80s. That kind of weird spiky thing that all the demon characters had. Anyway, they're like that because that's my childhood and that's what I remember. But anyway, they're all painted very, very evil, very spiky and vicious looking, and opposing them are humans. These are potentially the ancestors of the Jende, and helping the Jende, standing among them and fighting with them, is a giant. And it's bringing its spear into one of the biggest and most powerful looking of the evil looking creatures. There was some connection here. There was some cooperation. Interesting. All right. Well, let's try one of these passages. They take the one on the right because, as Touchberry puts it, that's the right way to go. They go down a short passage and come to a circular room in the center of which is a pool. The water here is moving, and they can see at the bottom. The bottom is made up of colorful stones arranged in a pattern, but at the center there's an opening out of which water appears to be coming, because on the surface it roils a little just above that. It's living water here in the center of the island. Magical, maybe, uncertain. But that's all that's in the room. At this point, Fleetwood does inform me he's looking up. He does not want any green slime falling on him. I don't know why he thought of that here, but anyway. All right, well, let's check for secret doors. Very well. DMs roll, so I start rolling as they go around, and Bob Johnny says, I'm doing it too. Okay, great. You know, we keep going, and they find one. They wouldn't have if they both weren't looking, but they find one. They open the secret door to see a passage beyond. Fowfire says, I'm going to check for traps through here because this looks a little too easy. They check for traps as they go. And she's checking and checking, and I hadn't planned anything, but I thought, you're checking for traps? All right. This tends to be the way I go. If they bother to think of it, I'll throw a trap in, just for fun. Will she find it, though? Ooh. They come to the end of the passage, and a room opens up. And they see on the other side of the room a pile of coins. Why is there a pile of coins there? Well, because I crafted a pile of coins the other night, that's why. Because I wanted to reward them somehow for this beyond just the spear. I wanted them to get some XP, essentially, and so I put the... Anyway, there it is. Whoa, hang on. That's way too easy. Fowfire, check for traps in here, too. And she starts checking for traps, and by golly... 10 by 10 square just in front of the passage is a floor that will collapse if they step on it. They try poking it with things a bit, like, well, this much, it's going to take more pressure than that to collapse this thing, but it will go down if one of you stands on it. So eventually, I'd say, hold Bob Johnny's cloak. Bob Johnny, poke it with your axe. So they're holding onto his cloak as he leans over and puts weight on it, and sure enough, the thing, falls away. Okay, but it's not a crumble. It falls and then snaps back up. Okay, we can't step there, but now that we know where the edges of it are, they can step across the gap, right? So I'm not going to make them do a dex check for that. It was just into the room they go. All right, this treasure, is it a mimic? They go up and they're like poking at it. No, it's just a pile of treasure, right? All right. So they gather that up, and they're filling their sacks, and there's a lot of treasure here. There's also a bottle. There's a potion bottle, and Bob Johnny tastes it. And for just a moment, his heart races. His pupils dilate. He feels everything quicker. It's a potion of haste. Put the cork back in that and keep that. That will be handy against Morag. All right, collect up the treasure and let's go. Any secret doors in here? No. Okay, back to the pool room. Stepping around the trap, obviously. Back to the pool room. Let's check out what's on the other side of this room. They go over there. They find a mirror. The same thing. The round pool. And then a secret door. And then another chamber. No trap here, though. No trap. And in they go. In this room, where the pile of treasure had been, there is instead an altar. And on the altar, there are the waxy remnants of candles that have burned down long, long ago, left to burn to nothing. And at the top of the altar, along the top edge, is written something. None of them has read languages, and they wouldn't have chosen it today even if they did, unfortunately, because what it says is the toll of the dead. Oh, well, okay. They don't know that, though, so they just see the writing. They look around for treasure. They're looking for secret doors. Is the altar a secret door? No. You can't put a giant in any of these places. These rooms aren't big enough for... I mean, you could put a small, like a hill giant or something in here, but there are no tombs that we could find. Let's go back to that main room where the mural is. Let's go back in there and check that out. I want to search for secret doors here, right? Bob Johnny says the same, and they both begin to search the mural wall for secret doors, and they do find one. There's a spot in the shield of the lead warrior. The lead human warrior has a shield, and it has a shield boss on it. And that shield boss, the painted circle, is painted over an actual circular stone set into the wall. Okay. Well, I'm going to push on it. Nothing happens. Can I turn it? Okay. Push and turn, and there's a grinding sound, and the entire mural splits in half along a painted line which follows the line of the giant holding, a weapon, bringing it down. It follows that line all the way down. The wall parts in two. The grinding sound reveal an enormous passageway. This is a giant's tomb. In they go, checking for traps the entire way. They eventually come to a room. It's not huge. It's not a large room. But they come to a room in the center of which is a rock. And wedged in that rock at its very top is a giant skeletal hand. All right, everyone, search for secret doors. Split up. And so they search, and I roll, and I get some 5s and 6s, which for elves would be a success. But they don't find it. They don't find it because these secret doors cannot be found by any means other than the one which is designed into the place. Okay, well, no secret doors. I want to go check out this hand. All right, you go check out the hand. You check it out. What are you going to do? The Fleetwood goes up. I want to touch it. He raises his hand up to the giant skeletal hand, and as he does, it snaps closed on him. And they hear words spoken in a language they don't understand. It's the Gende language, an older version of it. And it is saying, "The toll of the dead, in silver or in flesh." But they don't understand that. All they know is that Fleetwood is held by this skeletal hand. As he is held, though, there's a cracking and a rumbling, and the wall behind begins to part and slide open, revealing a large chamber beyond. What do? Well, check it out, at least. They do so. They look into it, holding their lantern up, casting its light into the room. They see ahead of them bones. The bones of giants littering the floor. "Okay," says Fleetwood. "Do you see a spear?" No, they can't see a spear. They shutter the lantern and Bob Johnny looks using infravision, which gives him more distance. Still, he can't make out for sure. There might be a spear lying on the far side of the room, behind some of the bones. It's difficult to tell. Well, all right. They don't quite trust this skeletal hand holding their friend, and so they back off. And as they pass the stone in which the hand is held, the grating and grumbling happens again, and the wall closes up. And the hand releases Fleetwood. Okay, that wasn't it. What do we do? There's no spear in there that we can see. Maybe this isn't the only tomb. Yeah, maybe it's Giant's tomb with, Giant S apostrophe, not apostrophe S, Tomb Island. Maybe there's a whole bunch. There was clearly the bones of more than one giant in that room, so out they go, out of the tower, and they begin examining the land on top of where they were. And as they go a little further, they can see a large depression where the room they were just in would be, measuring that far in, where that huge room would be. But it seems bigger than they remember it. There's another room down here. There's a much bigger room down there. How do we get to it? How do we get to the further one? And they look all around and they find no entrances up there. No caves, no staircases, nothing. So they go back down in. Something with this hand. It's got to be something with the hand. Because why would it grab onto me? What is that? And at this point, Faux Fire remembers. She remembers that image of the dock keeper holding out his hand and the skeletons putting in the toll of the dead. Maybe we have to pay it. Well, what did we pay last time? Well, you paid a silver coin. Worth a shot. Pull out a silver coin. Go up to the skeletal hand and hold it up. Fleetwood holds up the coin, and the enormous skeleton pinches it delicately between its fingers. And words are heard, this time, the toll of the dead in silver. Of course, they don't understand this, but they do understand that they can go into the room. They proceed, all four of them now, casting lantern light over the bones, throwing weird and gruesome shadows as they go. I had a lot of fun making this particular one. I mean, it's really simple, right? It's just a tile, a large dungeon tile, and then a bunch of Halloween skeletons from the dollar store, snipped up and glued down in various places. I glued them down because I did not want the game to come grinding to a halt while I put bones, So I put them all out. Piles of bones. They work their way around and between, but they find no spear. However, as they approach the far wall, again, the grating, the rumbling, and the wall parts to another massive room on the other side. Here there are no bones, a bare room, but in the center, a hole broken in the floor, as if someone has punched through to whatever is below. And indeed, when they look down, the lantern light doesn't reach the bottom. But they shutter the lantern, and the elves look down, and Touchberry, with his cat's eye marble, they look down. They can see the floor beneath, and rubble from where the floor was broken. The ceiling of that room caved in. It seemed that something broke through, and someone later on tried to seal it off. Planks lay across part of this hole, many of them thrown down on the floor beneath. There is a sense of evil. Whatever broke in here was an invader, an evil presence. Well, let's go. Well, why not, right? Faux Fire ties a rope on to one of the remaining planks, and Bob Johnny, because he has infravision, tough armor, and a really, really strong weapon, he goes first, lowering down into the pit, looking around as he does, and as he goes, he's calling out, hand over hand, going down. He's calling out, I don't see anything. It just goes on and on. He gets to the bottom, and the others follow, and they gather at the bottom of this hole in an enormous, dark chamber. And in that room, beyond, moving into the blackness as their lantern light pierces, they begin to hear a rattle and a clatter. And out of the gloom emerges giant skeleton. I had a lot of fun with this one. I built this in a live stream a while ago. You would have seen, if you watched it. If you haven't, you can check it out if you want to watch. If you want to watch me struggle with crafts for like an hour. Anyway, this is what I built though, and I think it looks pretty cool. I like it. So this thing comes lurching out of the shadows toward them. There's no thought of, of any negotiations. There's no thought of any talking to it. It clearly is coming for death. It comes and lunges with its spear. The party had lost the initiative roll. It lunges with its spear. I don't remember who it hits first this time. Was it Touchberry or Fleetwood? One of the two. But it hits. And it deals out damage. This spear is 2d10 plus 2. So, boom! Now the first hit, they are lucky. It only ends up doing like 11 or 12 points. Only. But still, ouch, right? And the fight is on. Now, I am surprised. I am shocked. Nay, I am flabbergasted. Touchberry didn't throw flaming oil. Like, what's going on, Touchberry? You've got all sorts of oil flasks. This is the ideal situation for burning something. Nah, just hacking at it with his sword. But both Fleetwood and Bob Johnny shoot lightning bolts. Now, the skeleton makes one save, fails the other, takes a massive amount of damage, but it has 147 hit points. I decided he has to be really, really tough. I mean, it's an undead giant, come on. So, he's really, really tough, massively tough. And frankly, Bob Johnny and Fleetwood are sort of stunned that they shot 2 lightning bolts at him and he's still just fine, but come on, right? So, the fight continues. Touchberry is hacking away. No fire for some reason. Hacking away. Faux fire pouring on arrows and actually hits a couple times, which is nice. And the skeleton. He's stabbing with his spear. He's swinging with his spear. He even's kicking the characters. Touchberry goes flying. Bob Johnny goes flying, right? Everyone's taking damage. Fight. But eventually, magic missiles and just hack and slash and Brasingas, and everything else. Eventually, they bring this thing down, crashing to the floor. I think it actually ended up being Touchberry who delivers the kill. It was Touchberry. And he harkens back to a previous giant fight against the hill giant, where he uses parts of the creature's body to clamber up and deliver the killing blow. So the thing finally shatters into bones and crumbles down and drops the spear onto the floor. Oof. That was cool. Okay, so they have fought the giant and they have won. All right, everyone okay? Well, okay. Fleetwood is down to 8 hit points. So Touchberry does use his sword on Fleetwood and bring him up into the teens. I think he rolls a 5, so it's a plus 1, so he gets 6 up. So he gets to 14, which is a lot better. Everyone is down. Faux fire is the best off because, again, she usually stays at distance because she does arrow fire. So she's the best off. Everyone is hurting, in the low 20s and into the teens, and of course, Fleetwood at 8. But they did survive. And they look around now like, is there any other treasure here, right? Well, they already found the treasure, but they want more. So they look, and at the back of the chamber, there was an enormous slab that the giant had been laying on when they entered. And they search all over that. Is there treasure in it, on it, behind it? Can I move it? Is there a treasure? No, there's no more treasure. But what you do find as they search for secret doors, they find a passage at the back behind that slab. A passage. Okay, maybe the treasure's in there. And they open it up, and the treasure is a way out. There's a passage and a staircase. Okay, up they go. Now they get to the top of it, and it's topped with stone. Right, it just ends in a stone. I'm like, this is no good. Well, let's try it. Let's try pushing it. Maybe it's a lid or something. They can't move it up. It's too heavy. But eventually they figure out it pivots. Pivot! It pivots, so if they brace themselves against the side and shove with their feet, they put their backs down to the steps and shove with their feet, with their legs, they can actually pivot the thing. And as they do, dirt and rocks are falling through and grass and stuff because it's been overgrown. But they discover that there was a second entrance. And up they come, and they are indeed on the other end of that depression that they saw. I watch a lot of Time Team, so, ruins underground and things like that. There's little, they always can see it from the helicopter kind of thing. Anyway, so they find they are indeed on the other end of that. Now, trees grow through it. I mean, it's not like clear or anything, but oof. What time is it? Now, remember, they arrived here after midnight, and they didn't camp. They didn't sleep. It said dawn. It's dawn now. You spent the entire rest of the night. It's actually into the morning. Well, we need to camp and rest, so they do. They rest for a while, like for a few hours, right? Because they don't have to be anywhere till midnight, and then they head back toward the dock. Now, I'm gonna roll wandering monsters. I don't think anything's gonna. Good heavens, it does. Okay, well, I don't know what it'll be. It's sort of a insect. Insect. Okay, insect swarm. Maybe it's a robber fly, something like a giant widow spider. A giant widow. I'm a giant widow. Anyway, a giant black widow spider. That's gonna be dangerous. That one is a save or die poison. Okay, so there they are. They've made their way down toward the dock, and they're resting again until midnight, when, in the darkness of the trees, there's movement. And it is Bob Johnny again who sees it. Bob Johnny's on watch when it happens again. I always determine whose watch it happens, and I use a 1d4 to just randomly pick. So it's during Bob Johnny's watch again, when he sees something moving. He alerts his companions, and they prepare themselves as out of the trees emerges the Black Widow. Roll for initiative. The spider gets initiative. Now, they have not properly rested. They have not memorized new combat spells. The only one they have is Web, which they think might not be terribly helpful against a spider. Okay? And so it's going to be straight up combat. The spider swoops into the attack and attacks random target. Faux fire. Okay, and hits. Okay. Faux fire takes some damage. Right? Not too bad. Roll a save versus Death Ray or Poison. Now, this is a save or die situation, and I've made clear to the players that there's no plot armor. Early on, I had some plot armor on for them because they were, well, first of all, little kids then. I mean, the youngest was 6. And because it was their first game, and I wanted to, I didn't want to kill them all off right away. But there's no plot armor anymore. Okay. Faux fire. Whew. She rolls a 17. That more than amply covers the save versus poison. You dodge away before the venom can be injected. You see it drip from the fang, though, as you pull away, and everyone begins to pile on. It actually takes 2 rounds of combat because some of them miss, and so it takes a little bit to do this, but they do eventually dispatch the spider before it can attack or hit anyone else. At this point, Touchberry, who again delivered the killing blow, he wants to take its fangs. I say, you got to be careful because there's poison, right? The venom sacs are inside the spider somewhere, but you can take you can take the fangs. Grisly necklace he's making. Oh, I forgot. Fleetwood took a toe bone or something, or a finger bone from the giant. Of course he did. Anyhow, eventually midnight comes, and there they are, waiting at the dock, when out of the sea emerges the ship, and out of the forest emerge the skeletons. The ghostly crew walks back to the ship. As they pass the party, they turn their hollow eyes at them and stare, and then move on. Once the skeletons are all aboard the ship, the characters follow. Where is this going to take us, by the way? Yeah, the old man of the village never mentioned anything about the ship returning to the village. Wonder where the dead go then. Well, I mean, they must get back to the cemetery somehow, because that's where they emerge from, right? It'll probably take us back to the village. Yeah, it'll probably take us back to the village, sure. No, actually, I thought it was going to, but then they started asking the question, and I thought, oh, I got a really cool idea. And I have this really cool idea because a friend of mine, Paint Minis Live, is painting minis 4-hour game, and it's gonna be cool. So, we're going someplace else. We're going someplace else. And we're going to go someplace where I will set up a location which will appear later on in the campaign. Because I don't know how long, it's a lot of minis he's painting for us, and I don't know how long it's going to take. So, the ship sails east. Just east. And they've long since left the village behind. It's like, well, I guess we see where they take them. Where they take them is past the road which leads to the Goblin Kingdom. Past that, and then arcing up to the North Shore. And this trip doesn't take very long. It glides across the sea at a terrific rate, although not feeling like it's moving at all. It glides up, arcs toward the north, and comes in close to the shore. There's no dock here, but on the shore they see 2 spurs of the mountain reach down. And in between them, as they rise and rise, there is a staircase, a narrow staircase that winds its way up. And at the top of that staircase, a little ways up the mountain, is a castle. A castle shaped like a skull with 2 towers on either side. Yes, it's Castle Greyskull, leave me alone. A castle of the dead. Yeah! I thought that was so cool. I thought it was so cool. That's where they're going. How do they get back to the graveyard? I don't know. I don't care. I'll think about it later. I just thought this was really cool. And so did the players, So the skeletons start jumping out of the ship, into the shallow water and going ashore. And the last one, before it goes, it's the first mate, turns and looks at them and says, "Get off." That's it, just get off. And then it jumps off into the water, and they struggle to follow, and they're in the midst of climbing overboard when the ship just dissolves underneath them, and they plunge into the water, but it's relatively shallow, and they begin wading ashore. They have to help Touchberry a bit. They begin wading ashore. There they are. We're not going in there. Nope, not going in there. Well, where are we going to go? Another debate. Do we head up north now? We have the spear. Or do we go back to the village and let them know what happened? Our horses and our mule are back at the village. They left them there in the care of the villagers because they didn't want to take them out to the island, on the ship of the dead. So, do we go back to the village? Do we... What to do?